I'm Cynthia Maller. My day job is the head of 3D creative technology at Walmart. What does that mean? What I've learned in talking to so many people is that our jobs, what we do is new. So it's very interesting when I talk about career paths and because like 5 years ago, I did something completely different. But what I do now, my creative team makes the 3D models and then uses them in the beautiful scenes for merchandising and marketing. And that 3D model pipeline also powers AR or whatever other use case in the company that might want a digital twin. But today I'm here as a certified or certifiable emotional intelligence practitioner. And I came to this because I have had a very bumpy road getting to where I am in terms of building consensus and partnership. And it occurred to me, again, because this is new, maybe I should share some of the things I've learned, some of the mistakes I've made, because in the end, because this is new, all of us are trying to find partners. Maybe we want to build bigger orgs. We need more investment, whether that's money or time or engineering resources. So I'm here to just share with you some of the things I've learned and put into practice. But first, so I always like to spatially orient myself whenever I travel around. So I was looking at the history of San Diego and if there's anything interesting. And I did find something that I feel very comforting. So about 10,000 years ago, the indigenous people that lived here, um, they made these, they have a Latin name, but I'm not going to mess it up. It's something that means cup. So the Kumye Indians, hopefully I got that right, they are one of many, many cultures around the world that made these divots. Now, they don't know what they were for, but what they do know after doing research is that to make one of these, it takes no less than 10,000 hand strikes with a rock. So I think we can all relate to like banging and banging and banging and banging to get our point across and to literally make an impression. So I like that because here we are in very good company. So fast forward now, 10,000 years. Today's goal is to learn to be less scary. Now, whether you acknowledge it or not, those of us here at the conference, we are scary to the people with whom we work that don't quite understand the technology. We're scary on many levels. They want to know what it is we're talking about, so they look smart. They're a little bit worried when they go home, their family talks about rise of the robots and all that kind of stuff, and they don't know how to respond. So today we're going to learn some tools that will help you be a little less scary. So I think, I'm not going to skip to the next slide yet. Every facet of who you are has an origin story. Like there could have been the time when I remember I only liked vanilla ice cream and then I tried chocolate, literally. And I was like, I think I don't just like vanilla. So I remember that moment. And for me, the origin story of when emotional intelligence really took hold and let me know that it was going to be important in my career happened in 1999. I came up to Silicon Valley to be the first digital creative director at Yahoo. And I came from LA, from the world of advertising and movies. And I came, like, my ego was so big, I had to check it in a bag, right? Like, I just really thought I was it. Well, the first day at work is always fun. You get your name tag and things like that. And that went really well. The second day, I sat in a few meetings. And when I say I didn't understand anything, I mean it. I understood not one thing people were saying. The acronyms were flying at me so quickly that I had like hives and pockmarks. And I went home that night and I thought, I have never felt so ignorant in my life, ever. And it was not a good feeling. I'm like, that was it. Tomorrow's going to be better. Tomorrow was worse because now I'm in more meetings. And I felt so out of place, so irrelevant. I sat there quiet the entire time. I was an outsider in many ways. And so I went to my boss, trying not to cry. Never works at work, really. And I said, I think I made a mistake, or you made a mistake, because I don't know what anyone is saying. I'm not a technologist. I don't know the acronyms. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know why you hired me. And he goes, look, thankfully, whether he would acknowledge it or not, he had emotional intelligence in that moment. He said, look, we have a whole building. It was one building at the time. We have a whole building of engineers and technologists. But what we don't know how to do is talk to consumers. And that's what you're doing here. I was like, oh, okay, okay, okay. So they don't speak my language. Cool. So now I realize that the skills I already had could be additive to the technology going on around me. And I've never forgot how that felt. I really was uncomfortable with how irrelevant and small and powerless I felt. And I decided there's no way that I want anyone, even my worst enemy, to experience the way that felt. So I made a commitment early on that I was gonna bring everybody along with me, whatever it took. Because we need everybody. I mean, we can't do this all by ourselves. I mean, we would like to. We'd like to get all the glory. Okay. What on earth is EQ? Well, the Q stands for quotient, like intelligence quotient. Everyone in this room has huge intelligence quotient. I'm not really worried about that. But emotional intelligence, at its root, starts with self-awareness, which is it is the ability to recognize, interpret, and respond appropriately to your own emotions. I think we can all relate, like, we'll just keep this about work, something happens and we like fire off an angry email and or an email that's way too long. And the thing is, that's usually not the way to get your point across or to get anyone to listen to what you're saying. So what this means is you, in that moment, you take a second and you say, why am I so irritated? What is going on? So you assess. And sometimes it's not easy. It's like holding a little mirror to yourself off to the side. But it's important for you to ask yourself, where is this coming from? And by the way, it could be as old as the playground. Sometimes it is. And then if I'm feeling that way in this moment, what is the better way to respond? So I'm really angry, I'm really irritated. Let's say it was someone who was saying something that was totally incorrect about XR because for whatever reason, and I got really irritated and I wanted to jump in there and correct them. Well, I should have taken a moment like, why? Why do I feel that way? And then let me see what would be an appropriate response. Maybe what would have been better is to go, not reply all, go to them and just have a quick conversation. And so some of it is that it's self-awareness. But the other piece of it is the same thing, the ability to recognize, interpret, and respond to the emotions of others. Now, some people feel like EQ can predict the outcome. I don't think that at all. I don't think it's mind control, but it is interesting. And the reason it's important at work, since we're talking about that, is that emotion is underlying every decision you make, every single one. We are not binary, if this, then that. We are not robots. If you think to yourself, even the decision of how fast you're going on the freeway, there is emotion underneath it. I used to do a lot of car advertising, truck advertising. And, yes, we might talk about the ABS or something like that, but really what we were showing was to evoke the emotion of going off-road. And I'll tell you right now, 1% of people that buy SUVs ever leave the pavement. But the decision to, it's true, I think I'm one, but I don't know, by accident. So yeah, intentionally leave the pavement. So because what we knew back then, and probably still now, is it's emotion is gonna sell that car. It is not gonna be like, well, how thick are the brake pads and what is the whatever, I don't know. But that's what I mean. Like advertisers have known this forever. What's going to compel someone to make a decision is emotion. So it's very interesting. You can start by, in the next week or so, pay attention to your own behavior. Nobody buys a timeshare on logic. They romance you, and because people know this. What I find so interesting is that we will spend so much money and time, research on how do our consumers feel? How can we get them to buy our product? How can we get them to make a decision and to love us? But we don't do that for ourselves. How about your colleagues? I'd like to know, what are you thinking? What's important to you? How can I compel you to partner with me? How can I build esteem and loyalty? It's interesting to me that we talk all the time about what to do for our customers so that they are partnered with us, but we don't give ourselves the same courtesy. So, I don't always get it right. In fact, I often get it wrong. And I will tell you a story about getting it wrong. And I've decided that I'm just going to share all of my foibles, because if I'm anything, I'm a teacher. I'm a selfless teacher, and I just want you to learn from things that I've done. Now, you're going to make your own mistakes too, and that's fine. But so the thing that one of the gentlemen in the panel beforehand mentioned, that it's middle management that is the blocker. And that's interesting because I find myself at work saying, why is it that I wanna go above that person's head? What's the emotion? And I'll admit the emotion is, I want that executive to think I'm really smart. Well, that's not cool to go above someone's head, and there's no reason to do it because it's just not gonna get you that far. So, a story of a mistake I made when I forgot to be emotionally intelligent. 4 years ago, a little bit more, when I got to Walmart and I really wanted them to stand up the practice in a broad sense of using 3D for retail, I knew I had to put together a business plan, and luckily I had an executive sponsor, an amazing man. And so I went home. He said, "Yeah, show me the business plan." I went home and I pulled up Excel, which I am terrible at, and I was doing the business plan, and I had this really, really cool chart of like photography asset and then what it costs in CGI. And I don't like to make the comparison of photo costs because it's not a fair fight. It's not a fight at all, but it's not a fair comparison. CGI and 3D will win every single time on every axis. But in the beginning, it is a really quick and compelling way for an executive that the investment will be worth it. So I had in all these columns, like it's 90% less money, it's 93% less cost. And some columns, I had 100% less because the asset couldn't even be done in photography. I was feeling like really, really smart. I'm like, I'm going to be the one that does this. Now, it's the world's largest retailer. So I really should have checked myself for a minute. But so I went back to this executive and I opened the presentation by saying, "You're going to think I made this up." And then I know he stopped listening and he let me finish. Thankfully, he's very emotionally intelligent. And what I forgot to consider, what is the emotion underlying the decision he will make to take this up the line? I was only thinking about myself and my own emotion. Had I stopped to think for a second and remember, or maybe I learned, maybe I read it on LinkedIn, this guy is a startup guy. He's an inventor. His reputation is everything. So he said to me, "There is no way I'm going to take this, as lovely as it is, up the line to the executive of the world's largest retailer with something that looks like I made it up." I was like, "Wow, yeah, I can, okay, I got that wrong." Because had I stopped to think, what's important to this gentleman, the emotions that underlie his decisions have to do with maintaining his reputation. So if you take a moment to think, the person on the other side of the table, what is the emotion that's going to underlie the decision to become your partner or to fund whatever it is? Because it's important for you to recognize that their decision making is not up here. It's going to come from some root. Reputation, maybe they're trying to save money this year because their bonus will be bigger, whatever it might be. So at the root of what it is, emotional intelligence is that. And that mechanism has really helped me exercise influence and understand what will compel someone to make a decision that I really want them to make. Emotional intelligence has a lot of terminology around it that I just want to dispel for a minute, in my opinion. I don't know what on earth a soft skill is. It's a soft skill. Because I don't quite understand that. Because I'll tell you right now, when you practice this, and please reach out, we can role play and practice. When you get this going, it is incredibly shrewd and smart and sharp. There is nothing soft about that. So just not sure where that came from. And it's not just being nice. But the thing is, so underneath every decision is an emotion, and empathy is a powerful, compelling force. So now stop for a second because you guys are pioneers, you're leaders, you're obviously moving forward very quickly. What empathy is not, I am not saying you need to be nice, you need to, be sympathetic, you need to give away your time and you need to commiserate with people. That is not what empathy is. So please don't slow down, don't stop being aggressive, don't stop getting your message out there because you can have emotional intelligence and still be not a shark. What is still be like a lion, something really ruthless and get your way. It's true because a lot of people think, oh, emotional intelligence is like, oh, my boss is so nice. That's not going to get either one of you anywhere. I mean, nice is cool, but this is work. Everyone has a mutual goal in mind. And nice is okay, but that's not what emotional intelligence is. I hate word salads. This is the only one I have. So, as a practitioner, what we like to do is build a framework, kind of a roadmap. Now, there's a common set of emotions at work that we can agree on. There's probably more that you would add that everyone kind of has boiling in them. The reputation, job security, which might be couches fear, self-confidence, relevance is important, to be trusted and to be a leader. These are the emotions going on with people all the time at work, including yourself. I know I can tell you it goes on with me. So, what emotional intelligence does really well is if you learn to listen to what the emotion is underneath what people are saying, not the thing they're saying, but the emotion underneath, you're going to build that connection and that advocacy, and you'll find a partner. So, what I like to do, and none of us have time to do this, but we have to take the time, but there is no time to build those partnerships is ask questions. And when you listen to the answer, understand that in that answer is some emotion that you can nurture when you're trying to push through this technology. So I asked, what are you working on? And whatever the answer is, probably in there is going to have to do with reputation. How's it going? Job security, maybe. What are your roadblocks? So if you start to just ask what's going on and you really listen the way that you would want to be listened to when you respond, you will find very interesting what starts to happen when you partner with someone on an emotional level. So then I think it's great to take people that might have either a rudimentary understanding or no understanding and make partners and advocates out of them by going one-on-one, not in front of other people, and teaching them about XR. And one way you can do that is by being honest and saying, you don't want to say, I want to teach you about this. You're like, I really want to show you some stuff on the horizon. I was at this conference. There's some stuff coming up. I would really like your feedback, one-on-one, because nobody wants to be stupid. You can give an amazing presentation, a little like this one, and at the end you go, is there any questions? And how many times have you gone, oh, crickets, I guess nobody has any. The reason nobody has any questions is that they don't know what on earth you just said. And there is no way they're going to admit that in front of other colleagues. No way. So I go back to remembering I was in meetings like that and it felt really crappy. I didn't know what people are saying. I felt like they were running really fast, running right past me. I'm not relevant. So I go and I make one-on-one meetings with those people and I talk about what might be important to them based on XR. You can find one of the many, many benefits of XR and talk to the person about that one. One of the universal ones that you can try immediately and you'll see what happens is about carbon footprint. Everybody can feel that. And so that's what I mean. If you if you understand that underneath that is an emotion, not just a pocketbook, it's an old school, not just a wallet and a set of engineering resources, but an emotion. Now, getting left behind is actually a primal fear. Nobody wants it to happen. So that's an emotion that everyone's going to have when it comes to future technology. Like I said, you're really, really scary because people don't want to be left behind. I talk about the jet wash that we all create as we move ahead really quickly. And whatever's happening in our wake, we don't tend to look back and see because we see it's not important. But it is important because the people behind you are people that you need. So when I connect with people, used to be you would go into a meeting and you wanted to come out with a yes or a no, I'm going to win or I'm going to lose. But that actually is putting a lot on the line that you can't control. Whereas if you think about connecting, again, on that emotional level, then probably you're going to come away with a partner and maybe not right that moment get the yes, but eventually get the yes. So when it comes to merchandising and marketing at Walmart specifically, the creative folks and the merchandising folks are people that I need, I could even say desperately, to adopt this technology. So I used emotional intelligence and I started talking to the merchants. Now, I made an assumption that what was important to them was to make their numbers. Well, that's the thing up here. But as I got to know them and realized what's really going on, the emotion is they don't have control over their content. They have beautiful imagery, but it is done when it's done and they can't change it. So they're trying to sell merchandise and they have no control over what's shown, let's say on the website or signage or whatever it might be. So I realized if I could show them that XR gives them control over their own content, I think I can build some consensus here. So I taught them the piece of 3D and XR where you can take imagery, which is a living thing, replace a product, you can test one product against another, and they were really truly amazed by this because it nurtured the emotion of being out of control of their own performance at work because all they have to sell their products are the visuals. And those are being created by the amazing photography teams at Walmart. So I realized I got to know them a little bit. I realized what was important to them. I realized what was the emotion that's going on. Okay, they don't have any control, and that does not feel good. Because, yes, then it's hard to make their numbers. So I start with one merchant, and then I hear them in meetings advocating and teaching other merchants what they can do with the technology. And that's great. And I wouldn't have gotten there if I just said, oh, you need to sell a lot of couches. I wouldn't really have anything to offer them. And that's again, that's shortchanging the person as a whole. So then with the creative teams, much different. Now you've got real landmines. And again, I was a marketing creative person. So I had to be really careful here. But I also had to prevail because I believe very strongly that this lever is crucial for retail. Our photography at Walmart is beautiful. It serves a purpose. There's a lot of things that we should always photograph. A beautiful table of food with a roasted turkey. I'm not even ask a 3D modeler to do that. I have one more minute. Woo. Okay. Well, anyway, um, so the creative team had to know that it wasn't a threat. Oh, wait. When you go into these conversations, think about this. Why would they resist? It's a really powerful question to ask yourself because then you can frame the conversation based on those ideas. Not, I want them to say yes, but why would they resist? Okay. Do I have like 15 seconds? Oh, 15 seconds. Okay. So I took the creative team and I took people that had never worked on 3D and I taught them a little bit. I showed them how their skill set is relevant because I remember the time when I sat there feeling like I have nothing to add to the future. So I took art directors that work on shoots and I told them, well, now with 3D, you don't have a location budget to worry about. You can use any set material. You can go anywhere. You can have, travertine marble on the walls. And by teaching them that, this is what happens. There were only 5 pieces of furniture curated for this shot. But this is the storytelling they were able to do. And they're so proud of their work. They could never have photographed this for many, many reasons. Same with the stylists. I said, you don't think you have a role to play? Of course you have a role to play. Look what you can do. And you don't have to make any returns or any purchases. One more thing. So flexibility and control for merchants. This is one retail season worth of imagery for one merchant. Because when they saw the flexibility and the economics, all of a sudden they were able to create way more stories and switch stories out and test stories. And it's been wonderful. Okay, so to wrap up, emotional intelligence is simply paying attention to your own feelings, taking a moment, asking why you feel that way, and then asking what is the appropriate response, and then realize that the person on the other side of the table is going through the same thing. And I've found that this tool, and you have to practice, and I really want you to reach out to me so we can practice, because in the abstract, it sounds great or maybe not, but when you see it in practice and you feel it happen, it's really fun. And of course, I went over time because my emotion is like, I'm not going to run out of time. Okay, anyway. Well, thank you guys very much. Yeah. It's karaoke night now. No.